Good morning, North Coast Calvary Chapel. My name is James Walton. I work with the Student Ministry Department. Today I'm bringing you your daily hope in Esther chapter 5. But before we go into that, I want to tell you a quick story that happened to me last week. I had a friend who was supposed to meet me somewhere up in Los Angeles, and they were supposed to arrive at a certain time. And as I was waiting for them, that time came and they weren't there yet. So I called them to check up on them, and their phone was dead. Now, you know, modern day transportation, you need that phone for maps. And so I began to stress out, began to worry about this person. Where are they? Do they know where they're going? How are they going to get to me? And so like a good Christian, I pressed into a time of prayer for them. I went in intercession mode and I started praying on behalf of them. I started praying that they would arrive, that they were safe, and all these different things. But as I was praying, I actually found myself getting more and more frustrated that God allowed for this circumstance to happen at all. And as I was praying, I felt the anger with God rising up inside of me. And I felt like God in that moment asked me, he said, James, do you trust me? Do you trust me in this circumstance? Do you trust me that I was aware even before? Do you trust me that I'm working even now? And I struggled to say yes. And I had to take a moment of surrender. And actually, to a degree, stop praying and just begin to declare my faith in Jesus, that I trusted him despite the circumstances. Well, I'll tell you that story because in Esther chapter 5, we see this buildup, this pinnacle of Esther stepping out in boldness, yet she doesn't act, and it stirred up something in me. But I want to point out something we saw in Esther chapter 4 is in chapter 4 we see Mordecai, and we see Mordecai's faith. He says to Esther, he says, whether you act or not, God is going to bring deliverance unto the Jews. So he has faith that God is big enough no matter what she does. But he invites her. He says, but you have been placed in a position for such a time as this. But I love Mordecai's faith. He's like, whether you do something, like you're in the perfect position, but if you don't act, God's still going to bring deliverance. He is still that big. He is still that trustworthy. No matter the circumstances, we can put our trust in him. So Esther chapter 5 comes around, and she does take that step of boldness. She goes before the king. He extends her the scepter, which was a risk. If he didn't, she was done for. She was dead. So she took that bold statement. He says to her, up to half my kingdom I give to you. What do you want? And she says, I want a banquet with you and Haman. So she has a banquet. She has Haman. She has the king there. And then again, the king goes, up to half my kingdom. What do you want? I'll give to you. And she goes, save my people from this evil. No, she doesn't. She says, I want another banquet tomorrow. And for me, that's just, I'm like, why? Why didn't she use this position, this opportunity? Why, God, why? Now, we don't know why. It doesn't tell us that she felt like God, she should wait. It doesn't tell us that she got scared. It's just what she did. And in that moment of reading that story, I found myself wanting to justify why she would wait. I wanted to blame her. But in reality, what I felt God calling us to is to trust in how big he is. To trust him amidst the story, trust him amidst the circumstances, even when things aren't going how we think they should go, or they're not going our way. God is still trustworthy. And sure enough, in the story, as we see the rest of the chapter play out, that God wasn't done with Haman, that he wanted to pile even more onto him, and he wanted to honor Mordecai. And so we see the story continue to unfold, and it wasn't done yet. And so I hope through this chapter, even though it's a weird chapter, that you're encouraged to trust in a big God, that God is mighty and he is enough. No matter the circumstances, he is still trustworthy. So let's trust God today. Let's trust God no matter what's going on in our lives. He is still good, and he will deliver his people ultimately. God bless you guys. Take care.